Hello, so my name is Michel Bauwens. I'm the research director of the Flock Society. I'm also the founder of the P2P Foundation. I'm Belgian. I live in northern Thailand in Chiang Mai, and I have a long-standing relationship and dialogue around integral theory with Rick Carlson, who invited me to this presentation. So the first thing we want to do is to explain what we do here in Ecuador. So I work for the project called Flock Society, Free, Libre, Open Knowledge Society. It's the very first time in the history of mankind, I know this sounds big, but it is, I think, that a nation state as a whole asked for a transition proposal towards a peer-to-peer economy, basically. So what we're working on is an overall narrative of transition towards a kind of post-capitalist social knowledge society, and we also call it an open commons-based knowledge society. So just a bit about the origin of the project. It's a three-party agreement between the Coordinating Ministry of Knowledge and Human Talent, SENESCYT, which is the Secretary of Innovation and Technology, and the IAEN, which is the Public University for Public Officials. And we are working directly here for the rector of this university. So what are we trying to do? The notion of a social knowledge economy is to imagine that for every activity, human activities, every social domain, there is a commons of knowledge that every citizen, every corporation, every entity, every public official can use. So it's opposed to the idea of privatized knowledge that can only be used by people who have the money to buy the patents and the copyrights. So imagine Ecuadorian society, or for that matter any other society, that has for each domain its commons. So you'd have an open education commons, an open science commons, an open civic commons, for example. And I give you an example. So what we're doing is we are looking for what are the feeding mechanisms that we need to enable and empower to get this kind of a commons. For example, if you want open education, you need open textbooks and open courseware. This is what we call the feeding mechanism. This ability to contribute to open knowledge. But we also need material and immaterial conditions. So to give you an example, if you change from scientific labs in the universities that are relying on privatized IP-based, intellectual property-based hardware and scientific instruments, and you move that towards the use of open hardware, open scientific hardware, the cost is on average 1/8 of what you would pay for IP-based scientific instruments with the same characteristics. So if you do this systematically, you can either save this enormous amount of the public budget, but even better, and that's of course our point of view, is you can have 8 times more students participating in this kind of knowledge creation and sharing. So this is an important point, a material condition to stimulate open education. Now let's take another example, immaterial condition. And here I use open certification as an example. Because more and more people are learning outside of the institutions from each other. For example, if you have to learn code, it's very likely that you're not going to find the latest code in a university context. So you have to do it by yourself in your hacker community. So you're learning peer-to-peer learning. You do it informally, but these people also need recognition from each other and from society. And so what they do is open certification. So here is an issue. How do we bridge open certification from peer-to-peer learning with the formal certification process that already exists, like PhDs and masters and that kind? So this is a kind of the process that we are following, feeding mechanisms, material conditions, immaterial conditions. And from there we deduce legal and infrastructural proposals.